All right, everyone, welcome to the final lesson for strings, where we're going to talk about string operations, formatting strings, and more methods that it will be very helpful in our string programming journey. So let's start off with string operators. So there are four operators that we can use with strings. First is concatenation, where we get to add two strings together. So please examine that I have variable A as hello and B as world. If I were to concatenate two strings together, we would get hello world. Notice how there's no space because the W didn't have a space for it, nor did we have a space after the O and hello. So if I were just to add the two strings together, we would just sandwich them together and get hello world. There's also the repetition operator, where it returns a new string that concatenates the same string over and over again that many times. So if I had A is equal to hello and added A repeated by 3, and give us hello, hello, and hello. Okay. We talked about slices before. There are three ways to slice. Single one is indexing of values, so just getting one singular slice. A to B, great. We're going to start from A, go all the way up to the index of B, and we're going to add a little slice of that. And A, B step determines how to increase our index or how to move about throughout the index range that we've been given. Okay. So A at 1 is E because I'm looking at the second character, right? So we start at 0, 1, so that's our E value here. I'm starting at 0, which is right here, right? The pointer would be here, and going all the way to the index of 2. So 0, 1, and 2 is here, so we're going to get, whoa, we never include that second one, right? We never include the final step there. And we can also run in and not in, right? To create Boolean values and comparing one side of the in to the other. If I say H in A, that's true because the character H exists in A. If I were to do or and not in B, that is false because or exists right here. That pattern exists right there in B. And so these are the four operations that I hope that you will be utilizing in the next problem set. Let's talk about formatting. Okay. So we've been working with print statements for a while, and basically, I know some of you have been very annoyed that, oh, I don't know how to format my string or my output properly. It just adds spaces where I don't want it to. So we use something called formatting operators. Now, this isn't the only formatting operator that exists in Python. So if you like the other one, or if you Google the other one, feel free to use that as well. But this uses the percentile symbol. Okay. So here we go. So percentile C represents character. %S string is the same thing as the string typecasting function. We have percentile D denoting any decimal or integers. Consider it as integers. So if you have an integer, use %D. If you have a floating point, you can use %F or %G, and we're going to talk about that in a bit. I want to go through the example here. So I have variable name is Zara, and age is set to 21. And it's going to print my name is %S, and my age is %D. Percentile, I have a bracket again, I have name and age. Basically, it goes in order. So the first variable is going to go to the first percentile formatting operator, and it's going to find that there. Okay? And it's going to format it to a string because that name value is a string. Whereas here, I have a %D, which is decimal for integers, and I have age as an integer. So we're going to output an integer at here, which is the variable age. And it's always going to go in order from left to right. Based on how many percentile you have, that's how many values should have. Okay? If you have more than one values, you want to use a bracket to trap them all. Otherwise, you can just have no bracket. And to use a percentile operator, you have to put a string and put percentile operation and set it like so. And your output's going to be my name is Zara and my age is 21. Or it is 21. Perfect. If we're to work with decimals, I have an example here. I have a variable called pi set to 3.14159. And if I were to do %.2f, that means I want to set it to 2 decimal places. So it's going to output 3.14. Okay. If I do %g, it outputs 3.14159 because %g supports up to 6 decimal and will always round the last decimal. Okay. But this didn't have 6, so it's just going to leave it as so. If I were to print 0.3f, it outputs 3.142, right? Because it rounded this decimal up to here, and we have 3 decimal places. For print percentile 0.3g, it outputs 3.14 because it rounded this one here. So those are subtle differences. I don't usually test on this, so you don't need to worry about it, but it is really nice to know if you're working with decimal in your program. All right, let's talk about some advanced methods that we haven't talked about and which you will absolutely love or hate using in your Python program. So first, we're going to talk about strip. So strip removes either leading or trailing white space. Okay, so strip takes care of both left and the right side. We have an L strip here, which just loses all the leading white spaces, and we have a R strip, which removes all the trailing white spaces of a word. I know this seems confusing, so I'm going to show you an example. So I have a variable called word1 and has these leading spaces here, one little space in between the strings, and spaces here. So there are three spaces, then H hello, then three spaces. That's how it works. Right? If I were to do word1 L strip and print that, we get all the three spaces in front of the H gone. Notice in all of our stripping examples, the white space in between our string remains intact because strip only works for the leading and the trailing white space. R strip, right, we're removing all the trailing white spaces at the back. And if I just use strip function here, it gets removes to both left and right. Okay. Now, let's say, for example, I don't like that inner white space there. I want to get rid of those. You can call something called replace method, which returns a string that replaces the old string argument with a new string argument. And we can set a limit if we wanted to, but this is optional. Okay. So we can use this to remove stuff or replace stuff within our string. Remember, string is immutable, so you have to create a new string anyways after. So here we go. I have word is set to hello world. And I'm going to replace all the lowercase l with uppercase l, and that's going to give us this. So test1 now contains hello with all the l's uppercase. Okay. If I want to just do that once, where it replace the l with an o once, it's going to go to the left, find the first l, replace that with o, and it's done because we only did it. So we get this as our result. In test 3, we're going to replace hello with goodbye. We're going to get this really sad message, goodbye world, because we replaced this entire pattern, found it, and replaced it with goodbye. And here, test 4, I'm going to look for a white space and remove it or replace it with all empty string. In this case, we had a white space there. That got rid of it. An empty string, so we have nothing between. We get hello world as one word. And this is a really good code to replace all white spaces in a string if you want it. So, okay, some more advanced methods. We have starts with and ends with. It will look for a pattern, and the indexes are optional. Basically, we're going to say, hey, does this string start with this pattern, or does this string end with this pattern, right? And it returns true or false. So it's another Boolean method. So it's going to help us create some nice if conditions or while loop. I have word equals hello world. If I say word that starts with hell, true. Word that ends with RLD, true, because that ended with this and started with hell. If I was to say words that ends with exclamation mark, that's going to be false. There's no exclamation mark at the end. Does it start with lowercase h? No, it starts with uppercase h. Let's say we're looking for a space at location 5. Yep, it's true. At location 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have a space. Therefore, it starts with that. Okay, that's our starting location and looking at it all the way to the end. So we're ignoring hello because we're starting at 5 and going all the way to the end. Second, lastly, there is the join method. This is going to be very useful in the future. Nice to know right now. The join method returns a new string. Okay, that combines all the data in our iterable item sequence and into a string. And it's a lot easier to look at the example. I have a new string variable. I'm going to combine 1, 2, and 3 with a comma and a space. So this list gets converted into this string. So if you ever wanted to turn a list into a string, we can do it like so. Let's say I had hello world. It's a sequence, right? It's an iterable data, and I'll put spaces in between every character. That gets joined to a single string of spaces in between every letter of hello world. Okay, so that's how the join method works. The last method we're going to learn today is the split method, and it's going to look for a pattern, and we're going to learn how to split a number of times there. In this result here, I have hello world, and I'm going to split it. It's going to split it by spaces because we didn't specify the pattern. Both of these are optional. For result 2, I have A, comma, B, comma, C, comma, D, comma, E, where there are no spaces, but I want to split it with this pattern of commas, and it's going to put that into a list for us of A, B, C, D, E, all as separate characters. Lastly, we have result 3. I have a special character here of the dollar sign, right? I'm going to only split it twice. Okay, so we get 1 and 2 separated and those dollar signs removed, and the rest of the string intact because we didn't split it. We only got to split it twice. So number of time controls how many split we want to do with this pattern. Okay. So I just want to make a little note, strings are immutable. You can't just apply these methods to a string thinking that it's going to affect it and change it. You have to reassign it or re-update that variable that contains that string. Okay. It's a big mistake that a lot of people make. And once you get used to this and you learn list and you're like, oh, everything's mutable in list, so you'll make a lot of mistakes there, but that is okay. Making mistakes makes you a good programmer. Okay. So thank you for watching. We talked about operators, formatting, and a bunch of whole fun methods that you can try. So good luck on the new problem set. And thank you for watching. Stay classy.